Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about creating a database with RDS. We're going to create a MySQL database. We're going to connect to that database via EC2 in two ways. One at the time of creation of the database and afterwards. So what you're going to learn is some basic networking principles, concepts, and how to also go through the process of creating the EC2 instance and create a RDS database. So let's get started. So I'm at my home console page here. So I'm just gonna click on EC2. Um, Also, I'm gonna launch an instance, and let's just name this my web server. Web server. Okay. We're gonna keep most of the defaults. We're gonna just select the Amazon Linux image. Um, Here we're gonna select the key pair. So just select that. Doesn't really matter. We're not gonna use this to SSH from local terminal, so we're just gonna leave that as is. We're actually using the default VPC, selecting no subnets. We can leave all of these as defaults. Here I'm gonna actually select an existing security group, and it's gonna be the default one. So what you need to know for this to work is this default security group actually has SSH enabled on that as an inbound traffic, so I can actually connect to the EC2 through the web browser, which is an option. So that's good to go. So we're going to launch that instance, and yeah, at the moment we don't need to connect to it. So let's go to another terminal, and now I'm going to click on RDS. You can also search for it here, RDS. So we can do RDS here and go to the relational database managed service. And what we're going to do here is we're going to just create a database, and we're going to go with standard create because we want to select some different options as opposed to the easy create version option. I'm going to select MySQL, keep all of that as is, select free tier. We can leave the database identifier as is. We don't need to change that. So here you're just gonna give in a password. I'm just gonna type a password. Make sure I type it in correctly. Confirm that. And all that you can leave as default. So what's important here actually is we want to connect at time of creation to a EC2 compute resource. So we already set up an EC2 instance here, so it should come up in the options when we do this. So we can see it in my web servers there. So we're just going to select that, and it tells you some VPC settings can be changed after creation. So at time of creation of your database, you need to kind of like be sure what VPC, because if you wanted to change that, you would have to recreate that database and probably migrate it. We're gonna actually use the automatic setup. So what this is gonna do is gonna create a security group for the database and the EC2 instance you actually selected, so they can actually connect to each other. So public access is by default no. So we can leave that as is. Do we want to create a new security group, or do you want to create a new one, or leave as is? Actually, we can actually choose existing security group. That's if you want to add additional stuff. So we could actually leave that as is. We don't want to add any new security groups because it's going to create one for us at the time. So we can actually just leave everything as is. Password authentication is going to stay the same, and yeah, we're good to go. So we're going to create a database. Yeah, I actually had to do that. So let's just do test database. Test database. Yeah, and we're ready to go. So I think at this time we can create the database. So this is going to take a bit of time. So let me just go ahead and show you. Let me go ahead and show you some of the network settings. So actually here I'm just going to go VPC, and VPC is a service that manages your networking between your resources. So we're just going to look at what's being created here. So let's take a look at the subnets, and we can see the database has created some subnets for us. So these are going to be private subnets, so you cannot connect to these from the internet. So let's go see some. Let's see what security groups we currently have, and uh, and uh, take a look at it. And so we can see now we have one security group here and another one, and this one's EC2 to RDS, and this tells you, and this is the security group that's going to manage that instance we created and how it's going to connect to the RDS, and this one is traffic from like getting to RDS from EC2, so it's kind of like just reverse. So let's take a look at the EC2 RDS1, and we have no inbound rules, but we have one outbound rule. So this is saying on this port 3306 with the TCP protocol, traffic can go from this EC2 instance to the database. And if we go back and we click on the other one, it's going to have no outbound rule, but it's going to have one inbound rule. And this is saying it can get traffic from the source, and this source is actually the security group of the EC2 instance. So it just connects, it just allows that EC2 instance that belongs to this security group to connect to this database that belongs to another security group. So yeah, so we're gonna just cancel. We didn't make any changes. Let's see how our database is doing so far. Still creating at the moment, I believe. Yeah, so this sometimes takes a while. And in the meantime, we can actually take a look at that security group, the default security group that I talked about earlier. Actually, the EC2 instance actually had this, and by default, it allows. But let's see the inbound rules here. By default, it allows all traffic on all ports, but I still created it allows all traffic on all ports in the security group. Yeah. So, but to connect to this via your browser, you actually need to add a SSH access. So I had to add this manually from all um all sources in this port range, but that's something I had to do. So if your default security group already has SSH access, then you actually don't need to do all that. So I'm just going to cancel that again. And let's take a look at the database and see what's happening here. All right, cool. I believe database should be ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to EC2. And what we're going to do is we're going to select that instance is running. Click on it. We're going to connect, and yep, and we're so what we want to do is we want to do sudo install MariaDB. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to install the necessary packages to install the MySqL client. And if we do that, it's a straight up download. So actually I got this from the Amazon documentation because we're using the Amazon image, and they give you like kind of like instructions on how to use that image. So if you use like Ubuntu or something, you could use another package manager. And I'm just gonna do. Actually, what we need to do is we need to get this this endpoint, and that's how we're gonna connect to. So we're gonna do MySQL. So this you can get from MySQL documentation, quite standard. So select the host, select the user, and yeah, you don't need to memorize all this stuff. If you actually manage databases a lot, you would actually memorize all of these, and most times you only need to log in once, or you write a shell script that kind of like does this connection, or you write some alias in your terminal that does this. So you don't need to memorize all of this stuff. You can just keep it somewhere to reference every now and then. Um, so we're in, so we can do show databases, and we can run any, you can use MySql, show tables, and yeah, so that's it. So that's all I wanted to show for that. So what I want to do now real quick is I want to create another EC2 instance and then connect that instance to the database. So at the time of creating the database, we already created this current EC2 instance. So let's uh, launch another instance, and let's go another EC2, another web server. Yeah, and everything's gonna stay the same, kind of similar to the other way we did it. So we can select another key pair, and this time what we want to do is we want to select an existing security group, and we could actually do this in two ways. We could at this time select the security group that was created for by the during the time we created the database, and since that's the easiest way to do it, let's just go ahead and do it. To do that, if we didn't want to do this, we could select default, and then we could just add another inbound rule in the default security group that adds this to that. So for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to select EC2 RDS1, and yeah, and pretty much we can just launch that instance. It's going to take some time for this to be ready to go, but if everything was ready, we could just add it here. I don't think it's ready to connect, so this might actually not work. So it's not ready. But what we could actually do is let me show you how you would security group. Right. So we have the security groups here. So we know we added the other EC2, but if we wanted to do it differently, we could come here and we could actually create an outbound rule from here. We could create an outbound rule from here that goes to TCP on port 3360, and we could say, and we could make it go to that database. So that's the RDS to EC2. Yeah, so we could no, sorry, we need to make it go EC2 to RDS, my mistake. EC2 so we can make it go EC2 to RDS, right? And we can save that rule. And then what we need to also do is in RDS to EC2, we need to then edit the inbound rules, and here we would then need to add our default. Let's see if it shows up. Add our default security group and send it on port 3360, and we'll save that rule. So we don't need to do this because we already selected the default. Because we already selected at time of creating the second EC2 instance, we actually selected the security group that was created during the creation of the database. So we actually don't need to do all of this, but so you could also do it this way. So if you want, I'm just trying to show you like the different options you have with security groups. Yeah, but that's the video. Let me see if the EC2 instance is connected. Yeah, so it is. So it's ready to go. So we can connect to that. Select the EC2 instance. Yeah. So what actually happened is actually didn't connect it to. Actually don't have any actually don't have any SSH connection on this. So if we look at this again, we can take a look at the security groups associated with this. and we're gonna see we have for the outbound rules we have something, for the inbound rules we got nothing. So what we're gonna do here is we're actually gonna edit this. I'm gonna change the security groups, um, and we can just add the default security group as well, because we didn't add this at time of creation. We selected the EC2 RDS instance, so we can just add this. So we can add the security group and save that, and hopefully this should work now. So, and we're in, and yeah, and from here we can actually just connect to the database. So let's do it again. MySql, and go. Let me see, admin. There we go. Port. And get the password. Right. Didn't gotta install the client first. It's a bit slow on that case. Actually, it's usually really fast. But yeah, doesn't matter. So we can just go back to that. And we're in. So show databases. And we can do all the default commands we already did. So I'm just gonna exit that, cancel that connection. We're gonna cancel that connection as well. And make sure to clean up, guys. Make sure you delete your database, delete your EC2 instances, and don't leave them running. So as good practice, I'm just gonna come over here and just terminate these instances, to terminate those, and let's get to the database as well. Select that, and let's go into actions, and let's delete that as well. You need to make sure you clean up, guys, because these run per these are so the costs are actually calculated per hour of runtime. So if you just leave your EC2 instances and stuff like that running, then this is gonna add up to your bill. So let's delete that real quick. So everything's deleting. That's the end of the video. Much longer than I actually anticipated, but yeah, every now and then you kind of forget to do one step and it takes longer. So that's the video, guys. Subscribe and like the video if you learned something. See you on the next one.